So what is going on, guys? I am BlackOpsAmazing. Welcome back to another zombies video, where today we are back with a Q&A, the series where I take your questions from the comment section below to do with the zombie storyline, Easter eggs, and I answer them. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, you know what to do by now. Drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. But without further ado, let's get into it. Here we go and enjoy. So the first question of the day is from Minecraft Player 2019. Can the characters go back in time to stop the entire zombie outbreak? So I suppose a lot of people were asking this towards the end of Zombies, as our characters were doing all of these things to put an end to everything. We know their goal was to give the children a future and stop the endless cycle, and in order to do that, they needed to rid of Element 115 and the Ether. But as you say, if they wanted to end the zombie outbreak, why didn't they just go back in time and stop it before it ever began? Well, there's a pretty simple reason as to why that didn't happen. I'm sure Treyarch would have thought of this. They would have thought people would have asked the question as to why didn't they just go back in time and stop it from ever happening in the first place. But it wasn't only the zombie outbreak which was the problem, it was also the Ether, Argotha, Dr. Monty, Element 115. Yes, like we all thought was going to happen, they could have gone back to the Great War, to when Element 115 was first discovered, and maybe stop that of happening, but that would have been a difficult thing to do because Element 115 is a meteor. It was spread all throughout Earth. So first off, stopping Element 115 from coming into contact with Earth is impossible. They are meteors, they wouldn't have been able to have done that. The other thing is stopping humanity discovering it, and again, even if they managed to do that during the Great War, there's nothing to say that hundreds of years later, humanity still wouldn't have discovered meteors of it anyway. So going back in time and stopping 115 wasn't really a possibility. Also, like I said, a bigger issue was Dr. Monty. Going back in time and stopping him, I don't think would have been possible. Yes, he was present during the Great War, so maybe they could have killed him then. And the cycle was broken after Blood of the Dead, so was that a possibility? Maybe, maybe not. And along with that, there was still the Ether that would have existed, which they wanted to get rid of, and going back in time, there's no way to get rid of that other than the way they did, which was destroying the summoning key. So ultimately, even if they did go back and stop one thing, there were still many other problems that couldn't have been fixed in that way. And so the only way to do it all in one was destroy the summoning key, which banished everything that spewed forth from the Ether, including 115, Monty, different places in the universe, and our characters. They were all banished back to the Dark Ether. So basically it was getting rid of all of those problems in one. The next question says, hey BOA, what are all of the wonder weapons in COD history? And also, what is their history? So I can tell you all of the wonder weapons. I don't think I'll have time to go over their full history, although I do have certain videos on my channel covering the story of some of the weapons. However, a couple of the videos are outdated. But let's remind ourselves of every wonder weapon, and by the way, there are 52 in COD Zombies. So first off, we are starting with the ray gun, which of course was our first ever one back in World at War, Nacdir and Toten. The second wonder weapon we were ever introduced to was the Wunderwaffe DG2 that was first seen in Shin Onuma. I'm not going to count things like the Monkey Bomb or the QEDs, the Golden Spork, stuff like that, although some people do count them as wonder weapons. But that was all the wonder weapons we had for World at War, and then in Black Ops we were introduced to even more. The very first new one we saw, which was on Kino der Toten, was the Thunder Gun. On that game we also had the Winter's Howl. We then had the VR11 and the Scavenger, both on Call of the Dead. The 31-79 JGB215 on Shangri-La, and then on Moon, the Wave Gun or the Zap Guns. Moving on to Black Ops 2, the first wonder weapon we had on that game was the Jet Gun or the Thrusterdyne Aeronautics Model 23. I don't ever want to talk about that again. We then had the Soliquifier on Die Rise, the Blundergat on Mob of the Dead, along with the Acid Gat, we should also include that. There was also the Hell's Retriever, but I don't think that's a wonder weapon. It is classed as one, but some people don't want to say it is. And then we had the Raygun Mark II, the Paralyzer, which was on Buried, and then we go to Origins, where we had the staffs, the Staff of Ice, Fire, Wind, Lightning. We also had things like the 1-inch punch on that map as well. And then on to Black Ops 3, we had the Apothicon Servant, the Apothicon Sword, the Wrath of the Ancients. I would usually say the Ragnaroks, but they're more like special weapons, along with the Skull of Nan Sapwa from Zetsubo no Shima. But the KT-4 was a wonder weapon. I forgot there was also the Spider Bait on that map as well. There was quite a few good gadgets. And then on Gorod Korova we had the Raygun Mark III or the GKZ-45 Mark III. And then on to Black Ops 4, which is a little bit of a strange one because we had special weapons introduced. On the Chaos maps, we have the Chakrams, the Hammer of Valhalla, the Scepter of Ra, and the Viper and Dragon. On the Ether maps for special weapons, we had the Hellfire, Overkill, the Path of Sorrows, and the Ragnaroks. But in terms of proper wonder weapons, we had the Kraken, the Death of Orion, the Magmagat, Alistair's Foley, the handoff weapons that you could upgrade in Ancient Evil, as well as the different variations of the Ray Gun Mark IIs from Alpha Omega, and then finally on Tag der Toten we had the Tundra Gun and the Wunderwaffe DG I can never pronounce that. The 52 wonder weapons I mentioned earlier also include ones from other COD zombies, so Infinite Warfare and World War II, along with other special pieces of equipment and weapons. But basically there's an awful lot, and like you say in your question, I can't go through the history because there's so much. Although I do have videos on my channel if you want to know. The next question says, hey BOA, why is Mason and Wood's name still on Nuketown Zombies? So yes, if you did or didn't know, I'm guessing most of you did by now since it's a pretty old Easter egg, but on the original Nuketown where you can find the blue and green house, the mailbox to each of these has names on them, and they are Woods and Mason. What's surprising is this Easter egg isn't on the new updated version of this map, which is Alpha Omega. The mailboxes are still there, however, the names aren't. Instead, they're replaced with just letters. But why do we have Woods and Mason's names being mentioned in Zombies, and more so, why are they on the mailboxes for Nuketown? Well, you could just say this isn't story related, and since Nuketown was originally a multiplayer map, it was also hinted at in there. Treyarch just copied this over without changing it. Maybe they just wanted to leave it in as a reference. I wouldn't say they forgot about it. It was more than likely just a cool little Easter egg for us to find. But let's think in terms of story. Could this be telling us that Woods and Mason was involved in Zombies, because we know other characters outside of this universe have been, such as Reznov. He's also a character from the campaign, and we do know Woods has a tattoo relating to zombies. It is this one right here. There is a werewolf, a moon, and then above that are the numbers 115, a reference to Element 115. But this is a strange one because Nuketown isn't a place where anyone would live. We know it was a facility belonging to Broken Arrow. It was also a nuclear testing site, so no one would have actually lived here. And Woods or Mason didn't work for Broken Arrow, so more than likely this is just a reference put into the game by Treyarch for us to find a cool Easter egg to discover. Dimox115X says, hey BOA, what is the explanation behind the picture of two men on a boat escaping Alcatraz that the Weasel drew in Blood of the Dead? So in this map there were 5 drawings in total that we believe to be done by Arlington. It would only make sense, we know he is the character that draws. He drew a cartoon that we can find in the map, or in the previous one, Mob of the Dead. We know he liked to do comics, so I think these were obviously done by him. The first few are interesting. This was one of them where we can see it is Ultimus Richthofen. On the writing behind him it says, who the hell are you? Still to this day, 100% what this is supposed to be showing us, I'm a bit unclear of. Who was Ultimus Richthofen talking to? Arlington maybe? Or his premise self? I mean, if it was Arlington that drew these images, then surely he must have witnessed these events happen. As far as we know in the storyline, he's never met Ultimus Richthofen, yet he's done a drawing of him. So that's really weird. The second image is just one of Brutus, we know he's seen him. The third image is of some prisoners, the undead, and then above them is a seagull. We know in Blood of the Dead, Arlington eventually turned into a seagull, so it seems like the prisoner zombies are kind of like putting their hands in the air to maybe worship him or praise him, do something, I don't really know. We do know Arlington helped to free the ghosts of Alcatraz, so that could have something to do with it. And then the 2 images that you are talking about is this one, where we can see someone in a boat rowing to Alcatraz from San Francisco, and then on the other one we can see that same person in a boat, however someone else has joined them, and this time they're leaving the prison and going back to mainland. Who exactly was this person picking up? Because in the first image, he is rowing towards the prison on his own, and then in the second image, he is leaving the prison with someone in his boat. When we saw this for the first time, we thought maybe that person is Primus Richthofen. We thought that maybe he didn't actually die in Blood of the Dead, and once everyone left, this person came to pick him up and he escaped. But now that we've gone further into our storyline, I don't really believe that. If you look closely, it does look like this person might be wearing a scarf. We know the only other person that wears one of these is Monty, but it wouldn't be him. So who is it? One of the mobsters maybe? If the weasel's drawn this, he must have seen it happen. So could it have been him? Is that him in the boat escaping? And if that's the case, who's picking him up? We really don't know. It's all up to speculation and theory. Nothing like this has been mentioned in the storyline in the Canorium. This is all we have to go off. So apart from those two theories, there's really nothing I can think of. Let me know in the comment section below what you think this represents. So anyway guys, there we go, that is it. That is all I have for you for today's video. As always, hopefully you have enjoyed. If you have, you know what to do. Drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.